Hey guys, I'm Kayla Liberty. This is speech number 2, and I did it on the death penalty. Imagine for a minute you're sitting in a jail cell. You're 100% innocent, but because of your lawyer, the lack of evidence, and the plain circumstances of the case, you're found guilty of murder in the first degree and were sentenced to death. There are probably a lot of thoughts going through your head, such as the fact that you know you're innocent. What about your family, and how can you prove yourself innocent? But unless you have a really good comeback, more chances than not, you won't win an appeal case, and you'll be like the many others who sit on death row, day after day knowing their innocence. Many people don't stop to consider the factors of the death penalty. The way they see it, if you kill someone, you should be killed. But what about the person who's on death row? What about their family? What about the fact that people who are innocent are killed, or if they're lucky, are released after being found innocent? What about the cost, or the pain, or the unfairness of the death penalty? We can never be 100% sure about anything, so why take someone's life because of what people believe? The death penalty is completely unfair. It's racially biased, it's painful, and it's an inhumane way of punishing someone. Since 1977, 77% of people were executed for killing white victims, even though African Americans make up about half of all homicide victims. We execute more white people than we do black by approximately 250 people, or about 20%. A study done by the University of Maryland concluded that race and geography are major factors in the death penalty decisions. They also stated that prosecutors are more likely to seek a death sentence when the race of the victim is white, and are less likely to seek a death sentence when the victim is African American. In a study done in 2007 by Yale University School of Law, it revealed that African American defendants received the death penalty at 3 times the rate of white defendants, in cases where the victims are white. In addition, killers of white victims are treated more severely than people who kill minorities. The death penalty is unfair on a couple different levels. One, almost all inmates on death row could not afford their own attorney at trial. They are given a court-appointed lawyer, which usually means they're often underpaid and overworked. And they do not have the experience that is necessary to be responsible for a case where the death penalty is a possible outcome. Also, we execute innocent people, and there is no way around it. Since 1973, 138 people have been released due to wrongful convictions, but at the same time, more than 1,000 people have been executed. Daniel Wade Moore was originally found guilty for murder and sexual assault of a woman named Karen Timpton in 2002. He was sentenced in 2002 to death. In 2009, he was acquitted when 256 pages of withheld evidence were released. Now, what if we had executed this gentleman? We don't know for sure he's innocent, but we also don't know for sure he's guilty. Russ Bingold stated in 2000, since the reinstatement of the modern death penalty, 87 people have been freed from death row because they were later proven innocent. That is a demonstration error rate of 1 innocent person for every 7 persons executed. When the consequences are life and death, we need to demand the same standards for our system of justice as we would for our airlines. It's a central pillar of our criminal justice system that it is better that many guilty people go free than that 1 innocent should suffer. Let us reflect to ensure that we are being just. Let us pause and be certain we do not kill a single innocent person. This is really not too much to ask for a civilized society. It is stated in the law that in every state that you cannot execute a juvenile and you cannot execute a mentally retarded person. In the case of Roper v. Simmons in 2005, struck down the death penalty for juveniles, and the case of Atkins v. Virginia in 2002 established that it was unconstitutional to execute defendants with a mental retardation. The National Association of Mental Health stated that it's estimated that 5 to 10% of all people on death row have a serious mental illness. James Colburn had an extensive history of paranoid schizophrenia when he was arrested for murder. During his 1995 trial, Mr. Colburn received injections of Hadol, an antipsychotic drug that can have a powerful sedative effect. In 1997, post-conviction assessment questioned Mr. Colburn's capacity to stand trial at the time, finding he had been seriously sedated during the time of his trial. He was executed March 25, 2003. It should be pointed out the process of how we execute someone. First, the prisoner is bound to a gurney and 2 needles are inserted into their veins. Second, they are injected with a saline solution. Next, the inmate is injected with sodium thiopental, which is an anesthetic which puts the prisoner to sleep. Next, they are injected with proconium bromide, which induces paralysis and stops the breathing. Finally, they inject potassium chloride, which stops the heart. It is noted that this chemical can cause excruciating pain if the prisoner is still conscious. What are some potential problems to this way of execution? What if they resist and delay the ability to be able to insert the needles? What if they're not able to find a suitable vein? What if the mixture of drugs is wrong? What if the chemicals are directed into tissue rather than a vein? And what if the prisoner does not react normally? What are the possible results besides death? Some executions have lasted between 20 minutes to over an hour, and prisoners have been seen gasping for air, grimacing, and convulsing during executions. Autopsies have shown severe foot-long chemical burns to the skin, and needles have been found in soft tissues. Who in the right mind believes that it's okay to torture someone like that? It violates the 8th Amendment right in the U.S. Constitution, which protects against cruel and unusual punishment. One argument that always comes up when discussing the death penalty is how it will cost so much more to keep someone in jail for the rest of their life than to just execute them. In a California study done in 2008, it stated the cost was $137 million for the current system they have now, which includes the death penalty. It's estimated that a system in California without the death penalty will cost around $11.5 million. Does killing a murderer have a positive or negative effect on the community around them? Sure, everyone feels a little safer when they know someone who is capable of killing someone is locked up or even killed, but it is proven that in fact, states with the death penalty have a higher murder rate than states without it. There are 35 states with the death penalty and 15 without, which include Alaska, Hawaii, Iowa, Maine, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, North Dakota, Rhode Island, Vermont, West Virginia, and Wisconsin. In 2008, the murder rates for states with the death penalty was 95 to 37 per 100,000. All 15 states in 2008 with the death penalty had homicide rates without the death penalty, had homicide rates below or at the national rate. In the last 4 years, the number of death sentences has been lower than that any time since reinstatement of the death penalty in 1976. In a survey done in 2006, noted that when people of the public were given the option of whether they think someone should be given life in prison as compared to the death penalty, 48% of people said they would prefer life without parole, 47% said they would prefer the death penalty, and 5% said they had no opinion. We have to keep in mind murderers have families too. Even though they did cause pain and suffering to another family, what makes it right for us to do the same to their family? We kill people who kill people to show people killing people is wrong? What a disgusting theory. Perry Cobb, an inmate on death row, states, "No man has the right to take God's place and say another man should die. It destroyed my life."